My name is Ruth Eleanor McCready, and I am 98 years old. My hearing is dim, my hands tremble, and my steps are small now. But my memory, Lord help me, my memory remains cruelly sharp. There is one story time has never taken from me, one face, one voice, one moment when the world split open and never healed. This is the story of the boy I loved, the mind that swallowed him, and the note they found half a century later in handwriting that should not have existed in this world anymore. I was born in a coal camp in eastern Kentucky in 1932. Our lives were shaped by the mines. Men went in, coal came out, and everything else was silence, dust, and hunger. The mountains around us were beautiful in a hard way, as if carved for sorrow. When I was 16, I met him. His name was Jonah Rook, 17, tall, lean, with hair black as coal and eyes like deep brown river water. He was quiet, almost solemn, but when he smiled, you felt like someone had opened a window in a room you didn't know was suffocating you. His father and mine worked the same number 7 shaft. His family lived 3 houses down. We grew up knowing of each other, but it wasn't until a revival meeting in the summer of '48 that we truly saw each other. I remember it vividly. The humidity thick enough to choke, cicadas screaming, the preacher pounding on about sin and salvation. Jonah stood alone under a sycamore tree, arms crossed, looking bored. I walked past him to get some water. He said softly, without looking at me, "You don't belong here." I stopped. "Excuse me?" "You're meant for something bigger than these hills. I can see it." My cheeks burned. No one had ever spoken to me like that, not with pity, but with belief. From that night on, we were inseparable. We walked the ridges, skipped stones across the creek, shared secrets in the abandoned railroad tunnel, planned to leave the coal fields and start fresh in Cincinnati. He said, "Ruth, if I stay here, this place will kill me, like it killed my daddy's daddy." I told him I believed him. I told him I would go with him the moment he saved enough for the bus fare. He kissed me for the first time behind the number 4 tipple. That memory still lives under my ribs like a heartbeat. But dreams die hard in coal country. On April 9th, 1949, Jonah's shift was working the old section of the mine known as Black Vein 2, a treacherous stretch of brittle rock prone to collapse. My father begged him to stay home that day, said he had a bad feeling, but Jonah only smiled and said, "Ruth and I are leaving this place. I need every shift." Those were the last words I ever heard him speak in the language of the living. At 10:17 a.m., the mountain groaned. At 10:18 a.m., the mine collapsed. The earth shook so violently dishes fell from people's shells. Women screamed and ran toward the shaft entrance. Dust burst from the mouth of the mine like a dragon exhaling. They brought out survivors, bloody, coughing, trembling, men who had stared death in the face. But not Jonah. Someone said he had been working the far end of the chamber when the beams buckled. Rescue workers dug for hours, then days, then weeks. They found nothing. No body, No boots, no lamp, no trace at all. It was as though the mountain had simply eaten him. The company declared the area too unstable and sealed the entire chamber with concrete. They held a memorial service even though they had nothing to bury but hope. I screamed at the preacher until my throat tore. He's alive. You don't understand. He promised me. He promised me. But mountains don't honor promises. For years, I wandered those ridges looking for anything, a scrap of clothing, a sign, a message. Nothing ever came. Eventually, I married a man named Thomas. He was gentle, patient, loyal. He deserved more than the fractured heart I gave him. We had 3 children. I worked at the schoolhouse. We built a life. But part of me stayed underground with Jonah.
In 2001, 52 years after the collapse, something impossible happened. A demolition team was sent to clear the old number 7 entrance. They planned to seal the mountain permanently. I went to watch, not out of curiosity, but respect. Halfway through the demolition, one of the workers shouted. They had discovered a chamber behind the concrete seal, untouched since 1949. Inside, everything was coated in dust thick as wool. Old helmets, rusted tools, collapsed beams, and on a rock shelf near the back, a wax-sealed tin box. My heart exploded in my chest. The foreman opened it carefully. Inside was a cracked pocket watch, a small Bible, and a folded piece of paper. The paper was yellowed, but perfectly preserved by the wax seal. On the outside, in handwriting I knew better than my own name, was written, "For Ruth, when the mountain is ready." My knees buckled. A worker caught me. I could barely breathe. They handed me the note. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. The date at the top read, October 12, 1971. 22 years after he vanished. My blood turned to ice. It read, "Ruth, I don't know how much time I have left. The collapse trapped me, but it did not kill me. Not at first. There was space enough to breathe, water dripping from the stone. I survived longer than any man should. I heard voices through the rock, sometimes yours, sometimes my own, sometimes something else. I tried to dig out, but the mountain shifts too much. I gave up on leaving, but not on you. I have written dozens of notes. The others I burned in case they were found too soon. But this one I leave in faith that someday, when the mountain chooses to release it, you will read it. I don't know how I am still alive. Time feels broken here. Days do not pass normally. The dark has a rhythm. There are moments I think I hear breathing that is not my own. Ruth, I never stopped loving you. I never stopped dreaming of Cincinnati, the house with blue curtains, the life we promised each other. If you have moved on, I pray you found someone kind. If you have children, I pray they know joy. If you ever think of me, know I never forgot you. The mountain took my body, but my heart stayed yours. It was signed, Jonah. The room spun around me. I sobbed so hard I smothered my own breath. The date, the handwriting, every letter of his name. It was impossible. A miner in 1949 could not survive to 1971. A man with no food, no daylight, no escape could not live 22 years trapped underground. And yet, the note was real. The seal was unbroken. The ink was his. Experts examined it. They could not explain it. Maybe he wrote the wrong date, they said. But Jonah never wrote the wrong date. Maybe it's a hoax. No one could have accessed that chamber for half a century. Maybe time works differently underground. They laughed when they said it, but the mountains do not laugh. I do not know what happened to Jonah. I do not know what kept him alive or what he became. I do not know if the voices he heard were real or echoes of madness. But I know this. He wrote to me. He kept his promise. He waited until the mountain let him speak. Sometimes at night, when the fog rolls down the ridges, I hear tapping deep inside the earth, soft, steady, like someone knocking on stone. Some people say it's just settling rock. Some say it's nothing. But I know better. If I could speak to my 16-year-old self, the girl screaming at the sealed mine entrance, begging the mountain to give him back, I would tell her, he never stopped trying. He never forgot you. And love, real love, survives places no light has ever touched. That is my story. The story of the boy the mine refused to release, and the note he sent me when time finally opened its hands.